A 3.2 kilometer surf swim, 120 kilometers of cycling, and 32 kilometers running. These three endurance events, each tough in their own right, are combined in Durban's Southern Sun Avis Super Triathlon, which once again was given South African championship status. In the final minutes prior to the race, competitors prepare for the forthcoming challenge and come to terms with their aspirations and anxiety.
Very nervous, like I think everybody else is, but I'm just here for the fun.
Tilly Roos, the oldest man in the race, age 23?
No, a little bit older than that, 53.
53. Is this your first ultra triathlon?
This is my first ultra, and I'm deeply grateful that I can participate.
Well, when you say experience, it means I'm old, so I don't know. There's a lot of young guys in the sport. We'll wait and see after today.
The morning surf presented ideal conditions, smooth and flat, with a current to assist the swimmers up the coast from Vetchies to the finish at the Bay of Plenty. Even the Dolphins came to watch the 336 competitors in this, the 7th Durban Ultra Triathlon. The disparity in swimming skills means that the field spreads out quickly. The top swimmers will be on their bikes in under 40 minutes, but the last swimmer will take around 1.25 hours for this first leg. Wayne Ridden has difficulty with his footing as he emerges from the surf first, seconds ahead of the First Lady, Mandy Dean. Philip Westhuizen's fortunes were to be better as he made his way to the cycle transition area to prepare for the 120-kilometer cycle out past Tinley Manor and back on Natal's north coast. Mandy Dean wasted no time in the change area and created history and much speculation as she took the overall lead in the race at the start of the cycle. As Jean Marais of the Natal team leaves the transition area, many more swimmers are still arriving in.
They're going to disappear off on a 120-kilometer cycle, all the way up to Bradwell. I can also tell you all about the Triathlon exhibition, which is taking place at the amphitheatre itself.
Transvaal's Tim Carter made an early bid for the lead, and his smooth, strong cycling style helped him make up the gap. Wayne Ridden of Natal's A side would soon have to surrender his lead to 23-year-old Carter, but his more relaxed approach seemed to pay dividends later. Ridden is one of few triathletes who can compete in both the swim and the canoe events, but his involvement in the sport is not restricted to that of competitor. He has also been involved as a race organizer and promoter, as well as being the chairman of the Natal Triathlon Association for 2 seasons. The swim events suit him better, as this was his previous sport where he represented Natal many times. He has steadily improved throughout the last couple of triathlon seasons, and this is reflected by his result in this race. Western Province Dr. Tim Stewart makes one of his few mistakes of the day as he misses a drink bottle on his way through the fields. Defending ladies winner Mandy Dean doesn't look as aggressive on the cycle as she has in past years. But with Natal's Lindy Bradshaw still recovering from a cycle accident, Dean is not really pushed and seems happy to have a comfortable race. Tim Carter leads at the Groutville turnpoint and picks up a food bag from his seconds. He reaches this point in 2 hours 16 minutes, a full minute ahead of second-placed Wayne Ridden, who in turn is 1 minute 40 ahead of Springbok Dion Steyn from the Free State. Tim Stewart has caught and passed Philip Oosthuizen, who is now content to stay just behind, outside the legal 2 bike lengths. The mass of the field head out with the wind as Carter, now taking it head on, struggles his way back. Ridden regains the lead and after completing 90 kilometers has opened up a gap of about 1 minute. As the cycle progresses, Stewart, who seems to have been pacing himself, makes his move, and by the time he reaches Umhlanga, has taken the lead in the race and is starting to dominate the event. Winner of the 1988 and 89 Leppen Ironman canoe triathlons, Rockley Montgomery has also sliced through the field though, and has secured second place. With Durban's Golden Mile in sight, Stewart crosses the Umgeni and is soon back into the transition area to prepare for the final 32-kilometer run leg. With 4 hours and 10 minutes over, Rockley Montgomery, better known as The Rock, ends his cycle. 3 minutes behind race leader Tim Stewart, who leaves the transition area with a fluent style, seemingly unbothered by the previous 2 disciplines. As Wayne Ridden arrives, The Rock leaves in pursuit of glory. The Cape Town doctor is now in control and does everything to keep his cool. The Free State Springbok Dion Steyn now holds 4th position, but looks slightly tired at the end of a hard season. Like Steyn, Stewart has had a full season and in the last 2 months has competed in the Springbok trials and then 2 international tests in the last 4 weeks. The Springbok team competed against visitors from America over the standard triathlon distances of a 1.5 kilometer swim, 40 cycle and 10 kilometer run. And Stuart proved that he was amongst South Africa's top triathletes over this shorter distance. Now he wanted to prove his ability at the ultra events. His goal began to look like a reality as he headed down through La Lucia, with only the strong running Rock being in a position to make a challenge. Early race leader Tim Carter's legs had failed him, and after dropping out of the top cycle finishes, he found the assistance of leading lady Mandy Dean to help him through the run. As a controlled Stuart heads back for the final 16 kilometers, Rockley gives 5 to his supporter and continues the pursuit. Veteran Lawrence Hass finds the pace of Christopher Morris helpful as he makes his bid to retain his previous year's title. Stuart returns past the midfielders halfway up the 1 kilometer climb in McEwerton Drive.
Tim, how's it going?
Okay.
With 4.5 kilometers to go and over 6 hours on the clock, Stuart descends to the Athlone Bridge for the last time. The heat and the event have attracted a large crowd to Durban's beachfront, and all eyes appealed to the Lower Marine Parade in search of the leader. Their wait is soon rewarded as the 30-year-old Springbok triathlete covers the final few meters at the end of a tough and grueling endurance event to secure himself a trip to the Nice Triathlon Championships in France.
It went very well. I didn't know what to expect. It's been my first ultra, and I've been really looking at the standard distance this season. So I had to see how it went on the bike. I just didn't know how I was going to cope for 120 k's. I've been consistent in my training, but I haven't quite done the sort of distance towards the end, what with Springbok trials and that sort of thing of the standard. So I did pace myself a bit on the bike, but then fortunately seemed to come through quite well towards the end. And then I wasn't sure about the run. Rockley was right there and anything could have happened.
Mandy Dean secures her 3rd trip to Nice with a controlled performance.
I had a good swim and cycle. I've really pushed them pretty hard, and then I just took the run pretty easily because I'm trying to save myself for Nice. So I just wanted to win in this prize.
So the men's race was won by Tim Stewart, with Leppen Ironman winner Rockley Montgomery having to settle for 2nd. Andre van Heerden, better known as editor of SA Runner, finishes in 3rd place, just 20 minutes off the winner. Springbok Dion Steyn holds on for 4th, with Philip Oosthuizen's consistency rewarding him with 5th place ahead of early leader Wayne Ridden. Race favourite Mandy Dean had 36 minutes to spare over 2nd-placed Pauline Count of the Transvaal, who had punctured in the cycle leg. Cape Town's Cebus Mouton finished 3rd, while Leppen Iron woman Jane Meeker fulfilled her pre-race decision to take it easy for 4th. Lawrence Hass retained his veterans title, 3 minutes ahead of Transvaal's Rob Tucker, who just managed to pip local Marvi Sheehan by 5 seconds. John Murray, a previous Seals Ironman winner, was 4th.
In not one, but 3 separate competitive sports. On competition day, the body combines with spiritual determination to achieve a goal. That goal may differ from competitor to competitor. To win the race, achieve the goal, beat previous personal times, or simply just to finish. Such victories enrich the competitor's spiritual well-being and set an example for life. They find reserves where the ordinary would find none, reach limits beyond comprehension, and strive to endure beyond normal endurance. Such is the attractions of Ironman, and of such qualities are its competitors. Now let's have a look at the history of the Ironman. In the first edition in 1983, Tim Cornish, a canoeist, took line honours.
In 1984, Rory Pennyfather, also from Natal, came through to win the Leopard Ironman.
Another man to make history in 1985, Dr. Eddie King broke all records in front of him. And in 1986, the same again.
Eddie King missed out in 87. Instead, Henk Watermeyer came through. Rather a traumatic finish.
And in 1988, Rockley Montgomery, the teacher from Germiston, again did what he wanted to do for a long time and did the same in 1989. One of the favourites for today's race, of course, Nick Bester, man who's come in the top 10 at Comrades and has gotten himself golds at Comrades, and obviously a very, very big favourite for the title. Another favourite, of course, defending champion Rockley Montgomery, who is onto a hat-trick of wins.
And a hat-trick in the SA Standard Canoe, middle distance and long distance triathlons.
Norrie, he's had an incredible 2 years and 3 years behind him.
Yes, but unfortunately he's had a bit of an injury recently, and he is concerned about a calf injury today. Rockley, of course, very good on the running leg.
And very strong mentally too.
Lindy, of course, has had some problems with injury as well, and a year or so ago she had a car crash which doctors said she would never run again from.
Unbelievably, there she is in tip-top shape for the 1990 Top Sport Leopard Ironman once again.
A girl to be reckoned with.
Norrie, let's have a look at the route. It was changed. Take us through it. And do you think it was slightly easier than previously?
I would say so, Arnie. The canoe route goes round in the opposite direction this year, making the waves a bit better. Then on to the cycling, and 95 kilometres of cycling, the first 65 of which were the same as previous. The last 30 were a change, taking us to a new changeover venue at Kyalami Racetrack. From the Kyalami Racetrack, it's out onto a 42-kilometre run, which is as hard as always for the Ironman competition, but to my mind, slightly easier if played the right way.
Yes, indeed, but those hills get heavier and higher and taller as the day wears on.
Arnie, this time, thankfully, though, the long hill is not at 32 k's, which, as you know, is the worst position in any marathon.
Just about halfway in any marathon, yes.
Hierdie jaar is die vereiste neergelê deur die provinsiale administrasie dat daar geen motorvolging mag plaasvind deur of toeskouers of sekondante nie, as gevolg van die feit dat dit 'n geweldige logistiese probleme meebring. En hierdie reëling is ingebring sodat daar veiligheid verseker kan word aan die deelnemers en ook met inagneming van ander padgebruikers.
One of the most grueling races in South Africa just about to start. With us, a man who has finished the race 4 times, Norrie Williamson. Norrie, who would be your favourites for the titles today?
In the men's event, obviously, Rockley Montgomery is 3 times winner, with a bit of competition from Nick Bester, who's going for his Ultraman points. In the ladies, Lindy Bradshaw making a return, competition, Pauline Cound and Ilse Fritz.
Well, only time will tell. Ahead of us, of course, 21 kilometres of canoeing, then that very tough cycling leg of just short of 100 kilometres, and then the cream on top, 42,2 kilometres. Only time will tell. And certainly time did tell as they got off to that 5:30 start, and a beautiful face at Hartbeespoort. In fact, starting off at the Skumansveld Club.
Well, Arnie, it's 14.3 degrees centigrade this morning, and that's nice. It's a good start for them there, and
Nice
that
and
should
cool.
help them through the race.
So that start at the Schoemansville Club, ahead of them 21.1 kilometers, and the dam very full, and certainly full of slight little mishaps too.
Well, there's always a start with that sort of mishap, as you call it, because of the wakes from other canoes.
At the front there, then the defending champion, Rockley Montgomery, 31 years old, Ronald Pronk, who was 5th last year in 8:19:17, as well as Victor Wegerle, who was 57th on the all-time list, and Grant Pitcher in that diamond at the front there.
I can also see Keith Elliker in there, and he's been in this competition since way back in 1983, a man from Natal. Normally fares fairly well. This is for the birds, eh?
Absolutely. Interesting in that second group, George Janos, as well as Malcolm Stoddard and Martin Willman.
And in the women, we've got Priscilla Carlisle leading with Linda Bradshaw. They're looking quite strong, and there's Ilse Fritz coming through to take the lead from Lindy into second place. So that's Ilse in second, and Lindy in third, with Pauline Cowan there in fourth. Sorry, Ilse Fritz in fourth.
A lovely shot of Hartbeespoort Dam as the sun comes up. The man who really came to the fore there, Giovanni Nicolacci, and a beautiful slow-mo shot. And those were the two people in the lead dinghy. And some very learned spectators we had out there too, obviously overnighting on one of the big rafts on the way to Hartbeespoort Dam. Out to the leaders, and Rockley Montgomery, defending champion, going for his hat-trick of wins in 1990, closest to camera there.
You know, that field spreads out remarkably round that dam in this 21 kilometers.
Norrie, of course, very important to try and work with somebody, because it is then so much easier.
Oh yes, it varies depending whether you're in favour or against slipping, but people say somewhere between 10 and 25% effort is saved by slipping.
And we may have mentioned it before, but Norrie Williamson has had 2 golds in this competition, 4 finishes, and the man knows what he's talking about, the writer of Every Man's Guide to Distance Running. Onto the bicycle leg, virtually there, and a lovely aerial shot of the diamond coming through with Montgomery in the pack.
You know, those bikes that we've just seen and we're going to see again, we've probably got about 3 million rands worth of equipment there. One bike, average probably about 2,500 rand. Handlebars, 300 rand a time.
Aren't you sorry you're not in the cycle trade?
Oh yes.
Well, Montgomery first then out of the water this morning in 1 hour, 42 minutes and 9 seconds, and very closely followed by Victor Wegerle, just 1 second behind him, and also together with him out of the water there was Ronald Pronk, also 1 hour, 42 minutes and 9 seconds. And now that mad dash for the bike. This is where things really can get tight, Norrie.
Yes, it is noticeable that Rockley has got an aero helmet on there, every second counting in the bikes, and these things are made to try and get as much speed out of the bike as possible, lowering the wind resistance.
Onto the cycling leg then, 95 kilometers of hilly cycling from Hartbeespoort Dam through Broederstroom, past Lanseria to Kyalami racetrack.
Arne, the temperatures raised to about 18.7 degrees and a humidity of 52.8, which means, and looking at the clear skies, these guys are in for a hard, hot time today.
Ronald Pronk then out in front, but Rockley wouldn't have much of this and passed him very quickly. Took him after only 1 kilometer in the cycling leg with a very powerful effort. And after 4 kilometers, the gap was 23 seconds. But let's go and have a look at the women. Norrie, that's where you kept check.
Yes, well, we had a very good battle going on up front. Priscilla Carlisle was first out, but then it was Pauline Cowan and Lindy Bradshaw here closest to the camera. Sorry, that isn't... that's Priscilla Carlisle coming out first with the gents, and she's got about a 2-minute, 3-minute lead on Lindy and Pauline Cowan, followed by Ilse Fritz.
Seconds now waiting anxiously for her to come through, pick up the bike, get rid of those shoes that she may have been wearing in the canoe, put on those cycling shoes, on with a helmet, and then away onto the road again.
Interestingly enough, she only had running shoes on and toe clips, no cycling shoes.
Also more difficult and makes the effort so much more harder.
Indeed, the softness of the running shoe absorbs too much energy. Here's Ilse Fritz coming in now.
One of the great prospects, but oops, a little mishap.
Well, maybe a good time to cool off anyway. And a helping hand. Who wouldn't be there? Bit of a shaky start.
A few slip gears and the toe clip just won't settle.
This is Beth Libby.
Finally, Beth gets on her way.
Now here's Lindy.
Lindy Bradshaw, of course, came back from a horrific car accident and, like Norrie said, wouldn't ever be able to run and do this kind of thing again, according to the doctors. But boy, did she prove them wrong.
Lindy's always one for taking it easy at the changeovers, and I believe that's a good move because she recovers and gets rid of the panic of the situation. Look how she's just casually walking it out. But watch later on. She's as determined as anyone.
So you believe that it's nice to take it slow and easy and keep it going. There you go then, the results. Rockley Montgomery out of the water first in 1:42.09, and certainly very, very interesting with 27-year-old Pierre de Jager and the men not even in there as of yet.
A few of the regulars there, Keith Elliker, George Yanis.
And the women's results.
Yes, Priscilla Carlisle, 1:54. Beth Libby, a new one. Ilse Fritz there in strong contention. No sign of falling count.
There we have a look at the profile of the cycling leg, and you can see how hilly it is. And remember that this is a cut right through the middle of the route, so it may look slightly more horrifying than what it really is. And of course, it's also very, very shortened.
Look at the end part though, how steep it gets. And it's a long drag up there. Look at that. And that's just a red line doing it, and it looks as though it's struggling.
Was this any part of why you weren't taking part this year, Norrie?
No, I love the hills. That's what I'm telling everyone.
Do they believe you?
There's Rockley, and look at, again, the power that's going into those pedals.
Certainly a man that one can believe. He teaches what else but physical training at a Germiston high school. Second and third place at that stage. Very interesting there, and a big deal between Ronald Kronk and Keith Wegley, closest to camera here.
This is coming down the other side of the hill. Once you've covered the top of that hill, I think you get into the cycle leg. That's always been my experience.
Rockley, of course, had an unbelievable season in the last year, and considering that he was knocked down twice in training and also broke an ankle.
Yes, and recovered very well. We'll see just how well by the end of the race. Whoa.
There's a big slip, and Gears just going there slightly.
It shows it happens to the best of them. Never mind, back on track again.
That could have been disastrous if it had gone any further than that.
Yes, a lot of things can go wrong in this race, and a lot of things did for many people, of course.
And inevitably does. Murphy strikes back.
Leading lady there. Have a look at the bike we're riding here. It's a lot heavier than the other racing bikes that we've seen.
Beth Libby there, Norrie?
Yes, again, going up. Watch the helmet moving from side to side. Compare this when we see Lindy Bradshaw and the smoothness of Lindy's.
That, of course, wastes. Well, there you are. There are some of the mishaps.
Larry Lombard with his second puncture. Now see how Lindy's helmet is absolutely steady. And behind her, by the way, you'll see some seconds there on a motorbike with bicycle tyres and so on. And they were allowed this year to replace tyres instantly.
But Montgomery out front, yeah, Larry could have done with it, obviously. Montgomery out front and going very, very fast, particularly fast down the hills, sometimes 70 to 80 kilometers per hour.
The marshals, of course, were battling with some of the cars.